Hello again.
And we're back.
We are
Hey,
back. Hey Ben,
yeah,
I was thinking maybe this time we can introduce ourselves and then ask people like why they're here, and then we can. Oh, the same. Sorry. I wasn't. I guess I wasn't. I don't know what I was expecting. I'm happy that you guys are back.
yeah. There's probably gonna be some new people. If there's new people, we'll introduce ourselves again. Uh,
Um,
but in the event that there aren't, we'll give it a couple of seconds, I guess.
yeah.
See if more people are interested to hear what we have to say.
John, I think.
Wait,
Oh
what?
no.
There's something wrong. I don't know what's going on.
Breakout rooms will close in 21 seconds. I'm not leaving.
I
Oh.
think it's Ben just invited
Oh,
you to this room again.
maybe
And so
something
that's what
something
I'm
went
here.
wrong.
Wait, let's see what it does. Is it?
So much suspense. I don't know what it does. I'm waiting to see what Ben has in mind.
Okay, give me 1 second here.
It wouldn't be 2020/2021 if we weren't having some problems, right?
Exactly, Chen.
Oh,
Okay.
is it not because people want to come back. It's because they got sent back to the same room.
Yeah, we all got kicked.
Sorry, everybody. Okay, I've triple checked the allow participants to choose room option is now checked. I'm opening the rooms.
Hey,
I think what happened might be because instead of letting people choose their own room,
yeah,
they put people back to the room they were in.
yeah.
I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah, this recording didn't really stop though. It was like going to the main room as well, which is fascinating. So they'll
Huh.
have a fun time changing. I mean,
Yeah.
editing.
Hey,
Hello.
John. Hi, everyone. John, I was gonna say, I think we've met at Jefferson, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Your face looks so familiar, and then
yeah, it was like three years back, I guess. You had come for a
Yeah.
conference.
yeah, the tandem conference.
Yeah,
Tandem.
I
remember
remember
that.
I remember the question I asked to Danielle. Like, I was into industrial design. How do I make switch to UX design?
Oh, yes, right. I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, I changed my major, by the way, and it worked out well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think
Jefferson.
the similar position I have switched from industrial design to UI UX design.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a
And
lot
I've
of people
heard
do that.
you a lot in IDSA sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fascinating.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
A lot of new faces.
Yes.
Um,
So we'll have to do our introductions.
Yeah. Sujan, you want to go first this time?
Sure. I mean, do we want to wait for a couple minutes to see if this is capacity, or we just start? I guess we should just start.
We can start, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Hey everyone, I am Sujan. I am a design systems lead at Express Scripts. I live in Philadelphia, but I work remotely, which is very, very cool. I work with a awesome group of people, designers, engineers, researchers, content strategists, hopefully a product owner soon, and an analyst, and accessibility. And we are the central hub. We work with a lot of other teams in the company, and our job is to make sure that these other teams are spending less time creating interfaces and spending more time creating awesome innovative digital experiences. So one of the most important things that we do is to make sure that we have this central source of truth that multiple teams can reference, multiple teams can like go to and learn about how we build things and how can we build things faster. So we have a lot of these coded components that are already built, patterns. We have documentation around when to use certain components, when not to use certain components, what are certain patterns that we use across our digital experiences today. What's our take on copy, what's our voice and tone, stuff like that is all documented. And my team is responsible for that, and the other teams are consumers. So there are users our design system is our product. So we know it's very fascinating to work in this very it's very meta, right? Because we enable teams that help our members to get better healthcare, I guess, or healthcare services to be precise. So it's very very fascinating. It's a very niche thing, right? Even within UX, like there's product design, and then within this is like design systems. It's not necessarily new. It's been around for a very long time. But it's just design systems as a whole. It's just been very very hot topic right now. But yeah, that's me. I'm also from Nepal. I moved here almost 6 years ago, so not an American at all. But yes, that's also a bit about me. Danielle, you go.
Thank you for that intro. Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Danielle and I currently work at EY Design Studio as a senior UX designer. And I work really closely with a multidisciplinary team, so including UX researchers, developers, content strategists, UX writers, product owners, there's a lot more to that, and it really depends on the project, but usually I work with many people on the same project, so it's really interesting to get to like learn about each, I guess, specialization and how I can collaborate with each other and how to communicate with one another. And like I mentioned in the beginning of my introduction, like way earlier, I actually have a background in product design or industrial designer, industrial design, if you want to call it that way. And I have actually worked in the physical product design field prior to pivoting into UX design. So I've worked at Hasbro as a toy designer and also a product designer at Penn Medicine, working on some medical devices and services. So yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see the parallels between these two worlds, and also I've been helping a lot of people coming from an industrial design background and product design background transitioning to UX. So yeah, it's been really interesting. And I want to just quickly ask everyone if you would like to share like your background and what kind of drew you into this room, like really quickly, if you're willing to share.
Yeah, I can start. So yeah, I switched from physical product to digital product design, graduated from master's from Jefferson. The Sujan was my senior. And then I worked in like healthcare at Dice Group, Jefferson in VR and stuff. And then I worked in gamification for like a sports company here in California. And then I was like consulting for other companies, like managing consulting firm and stuff. Then I wanted to like switch. I was into more like into startups. Now I'm like switching into bigger company. I'm joining Citibank tomorrow, so it's a big team. And I work in a company where I had multiple hats, but Citibank has very specialized roles. So I'm kind of trying to like understand, how should I like, position myself and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Cool, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
You can go next.
Yeah.
I'm Maitri. I have studied industrial design for my undergrad and master's, and I was totally into the IoT of the system of things. In India, I worked in a wearable tech company, but slowly I realized something was missing, but still I joined industrial design masters, which took me to an opportunity at G Appliance at Home Appliances and an internship in Amsterdam, which was for IoT of things. Later, slowly, I realized I'm not just inclined towards the physical side of the thing, but more into the experience of those products. Through connection, through networking, through my experience in appliance design, I came to Chef IQ. And Chef IQ, being a smart cooker, they have a user experience side, which is related with more product experience. And so last year I started working with them and I feel really at home. And it feels like I have a good mix of my industrial design background and my user experience side, which I want to work in. And yep.
Thank you.
Awesome.
for sharing.
Yeah. It's awesome. If anybody else wants to share, like, for sure, you can also like drop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Like your background, what drew you to product design, what your aspirations are, I guess. Anything that we can like answer. I'm sure there might be misconceptions or myths that we could bust too. I don't know if anybody is working as a product designer or UX designer currently, or if there are any questions relating to like job hunting, or what to expect out of this type of role. We talked about titles in our previous breakout room, which is a fascinating conversation, and I feel like people could talk about that for hours. Anything that is interesting, or you've been wanting to ask somebody who's working in as a product designer for a while, this is the time. Let's chat.
Can I speak up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I am right now working as UX designer, and what drew me to this chat is I feel like there's a lot of times a lot of talk between like product designers and UX designers and what is the difference. And like I have my own assumption, so I think it's not just the title. I feel like there's like certain responsibilities how you deal with the product. But I want to hear from you, as somebody who is, I guess, like officially product designers. How do you understand the difference, or do you see any difference?
That's so funny. We were just talking about it for like 10 or 10 plus minutes last time. I think what we concluded on was like product design or UX design, or whatever you want to call yourself, or whatever your company calls you. I think it's very subjective, and the name doesn't really serve much value. But what really matters is like the kind of, I guess, what your day-to-day job is like. So if you're working in an in-house company and you're focusing on a specific product, or like I'm saying product, but it can really range from what's an example? Urban. I mean, Sujan used to work at Urban, and they have apps for anthropology, for like a specific brand. And I think I personally see that as a product, whereas like I currently work in consulting, and I jump from projects to projects so quickly. So for me, I feel like it's more focusing on like really enhancing the user experience, talking to the users, understanding their needs, and then kind of bringing it together by working collaboratively with different teams to create the user flows, or like prioritizing user needs going through the design process. So there's a lot of similarities for sure, but I feel like for product design, I feel like it's more focused on one or two specific products, whereas UX design, it's more about the process, and then also the collaboration with a multidisciplinary team.
Yeah, 100% agree. At URBN, we had things called verticals, which represented specific parts of a user's journey. It's very common to see that kind of thing happen across, like, especially larger organizations. Amazon does it too, Facebook. My current company does it. Comcast did it too. So like you have very specific responsibilities and a very specific domain, and you're expected to work with so many different people. You're expected to develop a deeper understanding of the business as well, of the people, of the users. In an agency setting, you might have 3 months to work on a project, a particular launch, or a study, or a small feature release. Maybe it's a microsite that you're working on for a new offering that the company has, and generally these are smaller projects, so they tend to not utilize internal resources for that. But another difference is also like at an agency level, regardless of whether they call you a UX designer or a product designer, some agencies do call their designers product designers as well. So it's like I said, the titles are arbitrary. The work you do at an agency, it might be worth to brag about. You might have more bragging rights there, versus at a in-house level you might not have as much, because it takes a long time to really release something that's really spectacular, because you're releasing smaller things, smaller improvements, every 2 weeks, every month, right? So it's not something to brag about or write home about. Like, Or are you gonna tell somebody like you change the border radius on a button to like 4 pixels instead of 6 pixels, right? That's not something like you want to like celebrate. But launching a microsite, that's like pretty big deal. It's like nothing existed, now something new exists altogether. So it's like the work you do is really like what determines the your satisfaction with the job, I guess. Like the titles don't really make sense. The titles not making sense is actually, I feel like, purposeful. It's meant to prevent people from actually being able to properly value themselves and to ask for equal pay or better pay. This is not an accident. At least that's my opinion, right? Don't quote me on it. I believe that that's purposeful to keep people from like demanding better pay, right? Because if someone's product designer versus UX designer versus a UX strategist, and someone's making $100,000, someone's making $75,000, someone's making $80,000, how do you like compare, right? Like the titles are different, roles and responsibilities might be slightly different, but it keeps people from having a hard time asking for better pay. That's just my opinion, but I'm just putting it out there as well. It might be a little controversial, but I think let's keep it real.
Yeah, it gets controversial, and I would just say that keep engaging in conversations like this, and I think one day you will figure out your version of the definition on both titles. And I see a question coming from James, asking what specific skills will make a product designer stand out from the crowd. And I think Sujan, you kind of touched upon it when you were answering to the question on earlier. I think the business aspect is really important for a product designer to understand. And I think I can relate that to my experience working in-house at Hasbro, even though it was working on physical products, but I know that I was always brought into meetings with the marketing team, and also whenever we're brainstorming for the new product line, we're always thinking about, okay, like what kind of product value that we're bringing to the market, and then how much profit are we going to be able to make by working on this product versus the other, and by incorporating which feature versus another. So I think that's very important, because I think when you're at a much slower pace, you tend to pick up details more easily, and then also you get to really think through like the kind of value, how much value that you're bringing to the market. Whereas when you're working at a really fast paced, say, agency job, all the times you're really just trying to get stuff done, and also to really figure out the strategy, the product strategy, versus, I mean, you still think about the business part. That's how you sell yourself to a client, right? But I think, just really truly understanding the value that you're creating is something that I see product design bring to the table a lot.
Yeah. Another great question from Amanda. How can we more immerse ourselves in those business goals or learn more about business objectives? It's a very, very great question. I can definitely like answer that. I think it's a lot of it has to do with engaging in conversations with these people, right? There's so many departments that you have to work with. There's product, there's marketing, engineering, content research, and there's like product as well, and they have their own goals. Everyone has their own, like, I guess, quote unquote agenda as well. Ultimately, we are all creating the same things, right? But there's it really comes down to like how often do you engage with these people, at what moments you engage with these people, and your desire to at least learn about their worlds, because they operate very differently. Product owners, they want to create great experiences, right? But they value satisfying the business goals more than they do the user goals, right? So understanding and empathizing with like, okay, what makes you tick this way really helps a lot, because if you don't gel with your product owner, then that's going to be a bad time. So getting a sense of their world, diving deep in asking questions about how they operate, and what makes them tick, and then figuring out, okay, how do you use that to help you, I guess, advocate for your users. Because one thing that I would say working in house as a product designer is that there's a lot of trade-offs that happen. Like a lot of times you have to, forego great experience because it may not be within the interests of the business. Or many other things could happen. Might be like tight timelines, might be deprioritize over something else that is super urgent. So it's something that happens a lot, trade-offs, and you also have to develop this really strong sense of ownership as a product designer working in house, right? Because it's like your baby. But you're not supposed to treat it as like your baby because you go through several rounds of user testing and you learn that it's actually shit. So like you can't really like love it, right? But you have to also love it. It's really weird. You have to build a strong relationship that this is something that I own because nobody else. Well, there will be people who will be like driving certain things. There are people with like ambitions, goals, and aspirations of what this thing needs to be, but you also have the ownership of like what you envision this thing could be, right? It's not like there's just like a bunch of people at Facebook determining like what's the next step. Designers also have that say, and there's also like that's why there's the whole like uh you know having a seat at that table kind of like conversation going on, like and in a lot of companies that have more mature design teams, you have that proverbial seat at the table and you get to drive the conversation, and to be able to have that voice and that say, you have to like engage in conversation with the other teammates, and sometimes it can be really difficult because these roles are very very different. Like we learn whether in school to like whether in like undergrad, grad, or like to boot camps or certification programs, or just like online. We're supposed to be advocating for the users. We're supposed to be building the best experience possible. We're not supposed to be compromising on this. We're not supposed to be using like these ill-fitted patterns. We're supposed to be making things better. That a lot of times in reality, like it's not always like that. Which is why I say there's a lot of trade-off that happens. But yeah, I think just being aware of that thing, that hey, it's not going to be sunshines and rainbows all the time. I'm gonna have to work with a lot of people. There's probably gonna be a lot of difficult people, and I'm gonna like just come out and say that tech is a very toxic industry for sure. Just go on Twitter, and my claim will be validated. But that's why it's hard to navigate, and like the more you engage in conversations, the better off you'll be.
I agree, and I think having a seat at the table is something that we start to talk about more and more, as well as I think as a lot of the designers on my team and also like just in the design community, like we start to see this trend. For some designers, they tend to stay in that specialization, so they will tend to stay in UX design. It will be more hands-on. Whereas some other UX designers, they decide to move into people management. So that will be a completely different story or path. But then you do get to own that seat of the table. So I do think that as designers, we need to speak up for ourselves and also to put ourselves or to, I don't want to say earn because you should be given that seat at the table, but you kind of do have to like work yourself to get that seat, and so that you can bring in or to engage in those conversations. And I shared in the chat with some books that I personally have read, and I've really benefited from them. So I think one thing I want to add to what Sujan has said is to sometimes I find that using some framework in those conversations would be really helpful. Like, because not only you're showing them that I know stuff, but at the same time, you're engaging them in activities to show, see, this is what I'm talking about. And when you go through that activity, like you don't even need to prove yourself to them. Like the work, the activity, the framework, or the result from the framework will speak for itself. So I think that's another thing that I would highly recommend using. I'm a big fan of frameworks, and because I think that also helped me sort through my thoughts and my thought process. So that's another thing.
Yeah, 100%. Like, working in house, you have the opportunity to invite everybody to sort of like be involved in the design of things, and it's it works out in our favor because you can also lead them to because they're participating in early stages, right? They see you're thinking your hard work, and they also contribute certain ideas to certain things. When people have contributed to or feel like they've contributed to certain things, they're less likely to oppose that in the future. So that's a strategy that we use quite a lot, because if people have no input in something, uh, they tend to like dismiss it or like not see the value in it. But when they even have like added like just a line of copy to it, being like, oh, that's my baby, I see this work, I understand, I empathize. So that really works out, like Danielle mentioned, like having a framework. There's many to choose from. There's many formats that work for all sorts of people, that you can use. We do a lot of like design jams, which is somewhat casual, and we do it remotely because of obvious reasons right now. But we invite a lot of people. We invite tech, we invite product, we also have design specific jams as well, so it's just for designers to do that. But when we invite other people, it's less drawing and more like writing notes or like sticky notes type of stuff. So depending on your like people who are inviting the jam or whatever meeting, like you might want to use like different ways to capturing thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going through the chat and see if there's any other questions. Oh, I think there is one from Christine. Anything you would have done differently when you were at the entry level stage of your career?
um uh I don't really no, I feel like I would have I mean, I know what I would have done differently. To be honest, I would have looked up to more people of color and women as mentors or inspiration,
Yep.
because it's very common, and it's there's a lot of, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's not really controversial, right? It's real. There's a lot of white guys in tech, and those are the people who have the loudest opinions, right? And it sometimes it can be like monotonous, and can be, and that's the reason why there's a lot of gatekeeping. I feel like it's really important because we design for a lot of people. Like we don't know who uses, like, I mean, we obviously know there's so many people who need pharmaceuticals, who need pills and drugs and stuff like that. So if I'm always like looking for design advice from like a certain specific type of person, then like I'm going to be like very one side, like one dimensional in my way of thinking, and not just like people of color, just like people with different abilities, people with disabilities, and the people with like neurodiverse people, stuff like that. There's you had like, I think my way of thinking about people, the user too, was very limited, and it has broadened up now. Like I didn't really care much about accessibility, or I wasn't aware about accessibility as much, and I'm like a strong advocate for it now, and I want to learn more about it, continue to grow. I feel like find like great mentors, find diverse mentors. Well, not diverse mentors, find diversity in your mentors, right? Try to reach out to as many people as you can who have different opinions, who have different life experiences, who've worked at large companies, small companies, right? Who used to be like single moms and now are transitioning into design, who people who used to design but no longer design, like having different opinions and thoughts to sort of get a good picture of what design is, because it's easy to paint design as this awesome job, awesome career. Obviously it pays well, but there's a lot of like baggage with the industry as well, which I just want to be real about, that it can be daunting. And I see all the time on Twitter how a lot of people just feel down about the way work is, and how depressing it can be. Not to turn anybody off, but like I just want to keep it real that there's certain expectations of how magical this job is, but it's not always that. And I also want to make sure that everyone knows that whatever you end up doing, this is just going to be a job. It shouldn't be something that defines you. I don't I'm not design system lead all the time, right? I'm only that when during the 8 hours at work. After that, I'm somebody else. I'm just my person. So like I've also tried to detach my job from my personality as well, which I used to do a lot. I used to be like, oh, like a design system or a designer, that's me. 24 hours I'm on designer mode, which was unhealthy. But I think that is definitely something. Those are a bunch of things, but those are all the things that I would have probably done differently or like looked at differently.
I 100% agree. I know we're at time almost. I just want to add to that. Like, I definitely was going to bring up the mentor aspect. Like, even now, I wish that my mentorship with my mentor is stronger, and then we have more frequent check-ins. And I mean, I think the pandemic definitely made it harder because sometimes people don't see me in the office, so they don't know when I'm challenged by something. But I think maybe it goes both ways. Like, maybe I should reach out more often. But I feel like having a really great mentorship, and also, Sujan, I think I so appreciate you bringing up, having someone who not only you identify with, because I think that's something I feel really strongly about as a person of color, and also just having a more diverse leadership. I mean, I'll be honest, like at my place, it's not very diverse, and I think a lot of time they really don't understand, like not only the challenges that people like me are going through on a daily basis, especially during this pandemic, but also when making decisions, like as simple as making personas. Like, you see like all the white personas on the page, and you're like, wait a minute, like do we not exist? So I know we're closing the room, but I shared the event from Creative Reaction Lab. I highly recommend you checking them out. I just attended their workshop, how white supremacy or how traditional design thinking is damaged by white supremacy. It was my second time attending it. It's so good, and I really recommend everyone checking them out. And see you later.